Hello and welcome to Live at Epiphan. It is Thursday at 3 o'clock, and my name is George, and joining me today is Dan. Dan, how's it
Hey,
going?
hey, George, good to see ya. Happy
Yeah,
Thursday.
yeah. I mean, it's a little rainy and gloomy outside here, but other than that, we have a great show, so that's good. That's a highlight.
Yeah, we've got some interesting news stories, things happening with YouTube. Well, actually, most of this episode is about YouTube because there's been a lot happening. But we're also going to give a little bit of overview of some stuff that's been happening at Epiphan recently. We've got a cool blog to share and a couple cool other happenings. So, yeah, it should be a good show today.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, we're here every other Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern. So be sure to follow, like, and subscribe, where we bring you all kinds of news that is related or near adjacent to the world of streaming in some capacity, and trying to help people do it a little better sometimes. And today, I think a lot of this is going to be maybe a little ranty, but I think it's things to talk about. And the first thing we want to do in our lowdown of information, as I like to call it, the rundown, but it's the load. I'm never going to stop doing that. Yeah. The biggest one we wanted to touch on, and I think a lot of people have probably seen this already, is YouTube deciding to remove the counter on dislikes, making it private information. So what the heck is going on here, Dan? I'm really confused.
So, since the inception of YouTube in 2005, YouTube has had a like and dislike button, which many other popular content aggregation sites have employed similar things, whether it's Reddit or dig.com and many others where you can upvote and downvote comments. YouTube has had this for videos since 2005. It has displayed the number of likes to dislikes as a ratio right underneath the video. And now, however, the likes number will still be visible. However, the dislikes total will no longer be displayed. Users have always had the option to turn on and off the ability for likes and dislikes to be displayed as a number or a ratio. However, now, while that's still possible, the standard setup for a YouTube video is to only show likes and not to show the dislike count.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, there's been a lot of opinions around this, of course.
what's
I think
your
I
opinion?
understand.
What's
Well,
your
I think
opinion?
I
Let's get right
understand
to
what
it.
they're trying to do, right? And they've argued, and their main point here in this video and in their blog talking about it is that dislikes make people sad, or there have been things about essentially launching attacks on creators of trying to dislike their content for some purpose, generally very negatively, and not totally dissimilar from how there was hate raids and Twitch and stuff like that, as an issue. I certainly online bullying and online harassment is a problem, right? And we as humans need to find ways to solve this, because obviously we can't just count on people to be good people, which is really sad. That's a huge bummer, actually. But I don't think this is the way to do it. Like, hiding the counter from the public, it's still visible to the creator. So how is...
It'll still be visible if you go into your studio analytics.
Yeah.
You'll still be able to see it. It's not really
So
only
if-
hiding the dislikes from the viewer, right?
Right. And
Which
that
presents a
is-
number of problems. Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest, there's a reason why YouTube is the number one video site in the world, and part of it was the feature of being able to almost use YouTube like a search engine, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking for a very specific thing and you want to find perhaps a how-to or a tutorial or learn about something, it would be very easy to see how many other users found that content useful or perhaps not useful at all, to the point where they'd be willing to downvote it. So
Well, exactly.
this removes that capability. It removes, I would say, a feature that could quickly help a viewer understand the value of the content they're watching and whether it's worth their time. So I don't know if you
Right.
have a similar experience.
Absolutely. I mean, if I look at two videos, if I'm searching for a subject and I see two videos that are arguably the same content, but one has a like ratio that's extremely positive, and the other one has a dislike ratio that is really bad, then I'm not going to watch the one with the bad dislike ratio, because obviously at that point the people have spoken. Now, maybe the people are wrong. Maybe they are attacking that creator because they just don't like them, but the content is great. That's totally possible. That's a thing that could exist. But I don't think that's the majority of cases. And I think that's an important decision maker, right? To some degree, even Netflix taking away the up versus down and that kind of stuff. It's like, no, I want to know if people think it sucks. And this is the best way we can do that online. And I don't want to be harsh about it, but I'm sorry if some creators' egos get a little bruised because they end up with some dislikes. But one of the best examples I saw of where this is bad was actually on Reddit, and that someone basically made a meme. One of the highest disliked YouTube videos of all time was YouTube's own 2018 Rewind, right? It was a terrible video. It was just garbage.
Didn't it have something like 20 million plus dislikes? It was a terrible video. Nobody liked
it. But it has 3 million likes, right? But that ratio, it's just not even close. It's 10 times.
Yes.
But in this scenario, not seeing the 30 million dislikes on that video, you would see it on the surface and go, man, this has 3 million likes. It must be great.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing 30
you don't get the denominator,
dislikes.
right, of how many people actually engaged. Right? And it's not like the dislike button has been punishing anyone for, having dislikes. The dislike button, as far as the YouTube algorithm is concerned, is still engagement. So there's no negative or positive bump that you get from having likes or dislikes on your video. Any type of engagement is going to give you preference with the algorithm, right? So,
and that's probably my biggest thing with this, is that our historical understanding of the algorithm, like you said, Dan, is that an engagement is an engagement, positive or negative. So who cares what it is? And you'll hear a lot of creators say, go ahead and give me a dislike. I don't care, because it's an engagement point. I win either way. If they're not changing the algorithm to kind of go along with this, then I don't see that there's any point to it. There's no value in it.
Well, I think there is value to YouTube. So I do. Well,
there's value to somebody.
I just want to point out a comment that came in from Danny Grizzle on chat right now. He points out that unlike Facebook, dislikes on YouTube are anonymous. So that is a good point. It's a little easier to dislike things on YouTube than it has been on other platforms. But I think that has been to the benefit of higher quality content on the platform.
Absolutely. And I would argue that, the fact that the algorithm didn't take into account dislikes previously was actually also bad, because if you look at something like Reddit, if someone gets downvoted enough on Reddit, they get downvoted into oblivion to the point where their comment is hidden, it's buried at the bottom, and after a while, no one's going to see it or read it. And to be honest, that's arguably, to some degree, maybe the way it should actually be working, although it could harm people in these attack things. So it's like, which are they trying to solve? Are they trying to solve quality content, or are they trying to protect people from online harassment? Because noble cause.
But here's, I wonder if, I don't want to get ourselves in trouble with the platform that hosts this show, but I wonder if this has anything to do with preventing cyberbullying. I think who really benefits from this is the legacy media, who want to be able to use this platform. The major networks whose videos get downvoted because they're not good. And they don't want people seeing it. And they have major deals with YouTube, and there's money involved at high levels of, whose content gets distributed through this platform. So to me, I think that, although we may be saying that this is to protect the 0.2% of people who have been the victim of downvote attacks,
which apparently have no impact other than ego.
This benefits the mainstream. Honestly, whose videos are disliked the most? It's, some of the people we're going to be talking about in the Grind My Gear segment later in this show. But
exactly. So I agree. I think it's large companies that also happen to have very fragile egos oftentimes that don't want to see these numbers, right? Because some guy up at the top probably doesn't understand anything about social media, looks at a ratio and says, why is our ratio so bad? And freaks out about it. Well, the ratio's bad because your content sucks. So, make better content.
I mean,
and
there's also something of opinion as well. Like, some people come to YouTube for editorial and for opinion and for commentary. And, it's nice for the audience to be able to have the ability to disagree, right? And to visibly disagree with the sentiment of the video. If someone makes some video where they're being a jerk, they're saying mean things about people, I want to be able to downvote that and have other viewers see that, right? To voice
and let's be honest, comments are probably the most toxic thing anyways, and you can turn those off. You always have been able to. Right. So if you don't want to have that, because to be honest, that's where it's the worst anyways, then that's fine. I have no problem with that. Turn it off. But yeah, it's still kind of a thing. And I see Marlo just commenting like, mass dislike downvoting is rampant on YouTube, especially for politics. Absolutely. But what's the harm of that? It's people voicing their opinion. And again, if you don't want to, and don't get me wrong, the general rule is never read the comments because they're horrible. And I kind of, again, if you don't want comments,
there's definitely something that could be done. Like they should be using AI to moderate the comments to down, I think by and large, the audience is, not a negative audience. And, we should just be promoting the comments that are positive or not, derogatory and not name calling. So, there's other platforms where that has been solved with audience voting and audience moderation. Yeah.
So the last thing on this that I want to touch on is that obviously a lot of people have weighed in on this, not just Dan and I, on their opinions. And one of them was one of the original co-founders of YouTube, who has the first ever video posted on YouTube. And funny enough, he's used that video as a platform several times to voice his opinions on the direction of the platform. And he has once again updated it specifically about this.
I could read this if it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a long piece. We don't want to read the whole thing, but basically he's a co-founder of YouTube and he thinks it's a dumb idea. That's essentially the summary. So you can go check this out. I find it also really fascinating that this guy just updates the description of this first ever video posted for his own editorial purposes. I always find that a little bit hilarious.
203 million views, the first video ever on YouTube.
Exactly, and he can use this as a platform, even though the video itself is pretty much pointless and not good and should be disliked into oblivion. But the description, the platform he's using makes sense. The other one I wanted to share, of course, everyone's weighed in on this, but if you're interested in looking at a little bit of news, some of the guys over at Linus Tech Tips, some fellow Canadians out on the West Coast, just at the end of one of their news segments, talked a little bit about it, talked about that video. And again, this is one of the biggest tech channels on YouTube, and they're in complete agreement as well. You think they haven't been subject of dislikes and attacks? Of course they have. And they still think removing it's a bad idea. So that if people who have massive channels and literally live on YouTube and make all of their livelihood for an entire company of 50 plus people think it's a bad idea, there's something going on there. And
it seems like kind of universal. I don't know, but audience, what do you think? Is this a good thing? Is this just the modernization of the platform, or let us know in chat what you think.
Exactly. And it's funny, we don't want to dive too deep into other stuff, but YouTube's adding a bunch of other good features, right? They're adding other things that are really interesting. They're adding some things like the new to me tab to help discoverability, which I'm not sure will totally work, but it's a good effort, because I just don't think people consume that way personally. Yeah. But they're making efforts to make things more discoverable, right? Shorts, we know that doing shorts is huge in the algorithm, so that helps discoverability. And they're adding a bunch of other new features, which I think are really interesting, that are trying to move them closer to Twitch in terms of a live streaming platform. Because let's be honest, YouTube dominates the VOD. Like, it's just not even close. But live Twitch is very huge, and they're adding more and more features to move closer to that. Things like gifted memberships and being able to live redirect, which is basically what Twitch does with hosting and things like that. And then turning clips into shorts to make it even easier for you to create shorts on YouTube, which helps your algorithm, moves them a little closer to TikTok, if you will. So there's some great things that they're adding to the platform, and it just seems bizarre to me to have
One
a lot
step
of good
forward,
and
two
and
steps
some
back
other
kind of thing.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just odd to me.
I do like these features that they're adding. So, and
Yeah,
YouTube has
they're great.
always experimented with features. Like there's a lot of
For sure.
features that have come and go. Like,
Yeah.
and you and I have played with
Come,
most
go,
of them,
come back. Yeah.
including things like multi-camera live streaming and some of the video editing
even
features.
the editing, yeah, it came and went and it came back, right? So it's
Yeah.
I
I think part of it is just trends. They're following what the trends
Absolutely.
are. And right now the trends is TikTok, which is short video format, vertical
Yep.
video, mobile
Yep.
video.
Yep.
I really like the notion of clips. Like even for this show, I think it's something we should try doing, which is, after your live stream, you can snip the best sound bites or the best little clips from your live stream. If we have on this show, we have like a 30-minute live stream, we can grab a couple segments and just turn them into quick, easy to digest vertical videos. And I think YouTube actually created some like additional functionality for that. To really help you even take like, a 16:9 video and bring it over into a piece of vertical content more easily.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
They're adding
It's
some
nice
cool
to see
stuff.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's some really cool stuff that is happening, and we have some good comments coming in. Danny was just saying, YouTube channels that he subscribes to, excellent content overall, totally non-controversial, and at times he notices the dislike, and it's kind of a mystery. It doesn't seem to be for any discernible reason, and that's true, but I don't think it's the actual quantity, it's the ratio that matters, right? Because if you have 5 dislikes and 5,000 likes, like who cares about those 5 dislikes? It doesn't matter, right? But you still have to know the ratio to understand it. And Marlo was just saying, I think by removing the dislike, they'll force people to express their dislike as a comment, and that way the content creator gets feedback. And that might be true, but I would actually argue that to me, I would actually argue that's worse. That's more toxic, because then people are verbalizing. And honestly, the toxic comments are bad enough on YouTube as it is. If you want to drive more people there, I don't know that that's necessarily the healthy objective. I think that's just going to lead to more people turning off comments. And people turning off comments and not having an option to dislike very effectively. What does that really do?
It's all give and take. You got to have a balance in your platform. You have to give people a way to voice displeasure sometimes, and by allowing some of that, it can help the overall community. Interesting chat comment here from Emerald Audio Visual, in related to shorts, which is vertical videos are evil, though, which is I agree. I wouldn't disagree. I
think we did a show about that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think we have, and we've experimented with vertical video as well. And for some platforms, whether it's Facebook or mobile on your phone, vertical does kind of make sense. People don't turn their phone anymore.
No, exactly.
But cutting vertical video can be a problem. Although Premiere, for example, has added features to automatically convert your 16:9 videos to a vertical format by using some AI to see what's happening on the screen and follow that, and so it's pretty cool.
But that's a bit of a tangent. But speaking of dislikes and blocked comments and people who probably need to do a lot better work with video, Dan, you have something you want to rant a little bit about. It's not me this time, guys. It's Dan.
Well, I'm actually why don't we roll the graphics? Grind my gears. What's been grinding my gears? I might sound kind of like you here, George, but this is a grind my gears about our public broadcaster here in Canada, the CBC.
I would say it's also not unique to them, though, just to throw that in there.
No, this is across the board. We're picking on them today because it's easy to and because we pay for them. This is their national sort of at issue political panel that discusses, all the important happenings nationally here in Canada on our national broadcaster. And The quality. These participants join this panel on at least a weekly basis, I believe. And, I just had to point, I don't know if it's showing here, but like the quality of these camera sources is poor. The overall quality of the upload to YouTube is, maybe 720p, 5 megabit. The crops, the lighting, it hurts my eyes. And, I would think that after, 2 years of everyone being outside of the studio with their home setups, you would think people might have invested a little more than what we're seeing here.
Well, if you just pause it there, Dan, I mean, the first thing is, the host on the far left here, Rosie, she's a great host. I think she does a great job. But you can see she actually has the visual quality difference of being in the studio versus the three panelists.
Oh, she's got great lighting. From home. Absolutely. But the compression on her feed is poor. Like her hair is all pixelated. Like, I don't know how well this is showing on our stream right now because it's cropped smaller. But even with the other guests, I mean, Andrew Coyne here in the center is using wired earbuds for some reason.
Yeah, he's in his attic using wired earbuds. What's going on?
Earphones from 2007.
They're making a comeback, Dan.
Lighting here on the right for this correspondent is pretty poor. She's got a big shadow over her face from her hairline. The guest on the left here is not even centered in her crop, and some weird lighting issues as well that is not terribly flattering. I just thought that maybe, a national broadcaster with $1 billion budget would be able to help these folks, if they're going to be working from home, to set up some kind of little studio setup in their house.
Buy them $100 mic and a panel light.
Run the show on SRT like this show is right now. We see Lisa in the comments saying the SRT is looking fab today, guys. And we appreciate that. And we put effort into making sure that our source feed is the best that we can make it. And sometimes, we've experimented with easier solutions like Zoom NDI sources, which we
still better than what we're seeing here.
Results with,
but it's still better than what we see here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think they're probably they're just doing a quick and dirty. They're probably using Wi-Fi for each of those guests, right?
Like Emerald's possibly using their phone, Zoom or Skype to call in. And I mean, come on, you're supposed to be professional broadcasters here, right?
Step it up. Even the layout. Like, why is her crop like a few centimeters, or for our American friends, inches taller than the other ones? Like, just make her crop the same height. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
They're not even using a motion background. It's just like a JPEG background. Anyway,
it's weird.
We could rant on it all day. There is, if you love ranting on people's poor setups, you can check out Room Raider, which is a Twitter feed that collects these terrible broadcast appearance setups, and
it's brutal. It's brutal.
Okay,
where is the dislike button? Where's the dislike button when you need it?
So let's do a quick analysis. Like, this actually looks decent. At least she's in a nice room at first glance, but the right side of her face is lit with incandescent. The left side of her face is lit with natural light. There's no balance to the lighting. Otherwise,
good effort.
Well done. Well done. You've got a good camera.
No
angle.
Earbuds, no headset.
Yeah, the camera's above her chin.
Eye line. Yeah, that part's great.
90% of the way there. If she could, just get a daylight balanced bulb on the right side instead of incandescent.
The only thing we don't know from that picture is what her audio is, which is a big part of this, right? If you're not using a good microphone, then you're just using like the open mic on your laptop with open speakers. That's a terrible idea. Never do that. So that picture doesn't tell us that part. But
here's one that's, nice setting. Definitely she moved some plants in, kind of like I did today. Wink, wink. Which is nice. Add some visual interest. Again, minor lighting issues, but overall, not bad. Good positioning. We saw Darius Rucker previously above. He was, had the classic up the nose shot, never good thing.
No, you don't want that.
This isn't even level. I mean, come on. You're a politician who, probably has a huge budget to
in your kitchen. You can't even get a level camera. Yeah.
Anyway, I think we've ranted enough on this, George, and I'm sure we will again. But that's what's grinding my gears.
No, absolutely. And yeah, I think you and I have both ranted about this subject multiple times. And part of that is because, within a 1 week of, in March 2020, within 1 week, Epiphan employees recognizing that we needed to create content in a quality and effective manner did honestly not the most. We did the minimal amount of effort so that we could deliver quality content to our customers, to our viewers of this show, to our teams internally. And it doesn't cost a lot of money, right?
And to
a decent camera, decent
and to our
microphone.
staff like Julie Carter, who's saying hi in chat right now. Let's say hi to Julie. Nice to have you here. And Lisa, of course. We see Lisa, some other Epiphaners in chat. But you're exactly right, George. Like, it doesn't take
much.
Too much. If you have a small budget, you can do it. Just quickly, because we get asked this all the time, how are you doing this show? I've got a little diagram up here. Basically, both George and I are using small pearls. I'm using a Pearl Mini. I think George is actually using...
I'm using my Pearl Mini today instead of a Nano.
Okay. So there we go. So we're both feeding SRT to our Epiphan studio, where there's a Pearl 2 that our producer Cameron is controlling remotely. Okay, and there's our studio right there. As you can see, nobody is in it.
Empty. Very lonely.
But if you look on the right side, you can see the studio monitors. We can wave. We can show you that we are actually live. We didn't record this today. But Cameron controls this Pearl 2 in our studio remotely entirely using Epiphan Cloud. And then in addition to that, we're using Zoom as a communication layer between George and Cameron and myself so that we can have this conversation fluidly in real time alongside the high quality broadcast signal like SRT, which is powering this show to YouTube.
And we both use earbuds so that it's visually cleaner, but we can hear all that back channel that's happening and everything. It's an IFB, right? It's kind of idea. So it's not hard. It's pretty simple, right? SRT was literally invented to help networks do this kind of stuff better. So the reason that they aren't is a mystery to me. I don't know that I will. Yeah.
I do see in chat Emerald Audio Visual, and thanks for chiming in. Emerald saw some Epiphan streams earlier in the year where there was terrible audio lag, but the quality today is spot on. Well, thank you. It's something that we're always trying to do our best. We have experimented, and sometimes what you see on this show when we have those technical issues is because we're kind of experimenting in the background with the show all the time. So one of the workflows that we've tried earlier this year a lot is pulling NDI sources out of Zoom when they added that feature, and we've used it quite a bit. There's definitely a convenience factor there, but we have found that there is audio syncing issues
on occasion, and it's variable.
Another thing we've had problems with, if you've ever watched video on demand of this show, so you watch it after the stream is no longer live, is we try to trim the heads and tails of the show so you don't have to watch the pre-roll countdown. YouTube's trim feature seems to throw audio out of sync. So I think going forward, we're actually not going to bother trimming the show, unfortunately, because we can't rely on the quality of the AV sync afterwards. So that's another
And that's
thing
not
to watch out
uncommon.
for.
I know even Adobe had issues with that years ago with certain file types or certain codec types. As soon as you went to even do a simple trim, it would just break the sync. At least in Adobe, you could fix the audio track sync, but in YouTube, you can't. Once you trim it, you can't realign the separate tracks. So, there were a couple other comments in there I wanted to look at. Danny was saying Facebook seems to no longer be supporting horizontal videos on iPhones, which, that's just such a terrible idea. Emerald was saying the Insta360 has a feature for recording, storing 16:9 and vertical at the same time. The Insta360s are super cool. Like they're just really cool cameras in general. I wish there was a better way to use them live without buying the crazy top end ones, but that's a future wish and hope. Danny was just saying, grind my gears, cutting to Canadian politics, not the CBC not the BBC folks. That's true. Our own internal person somewhere moderating said, why is Gen Z plugging in wired headphones and getting rid of AirPods? Because believe it or not, the wired ones have a better microphone quality. The AirPods suck. Stop using them. Anyway. And then I saw Danny also post a comment about the poppies, the flowers that we saw in that clip from the CBC. So that was shot and shared just before November 11th, in around that. This was on November 11th, in fact. So here in Canada, as well as in the UK and in some other Commonwealth countries, November 11th is Remembrance Day. And to commemorate that, as part of the end of the First World War, we wear a red poppy as a sign of that. We wear it the weeks leading up to November 11th. There are ceremonies on November 11th, which is when you're supposed to stop wearing them, although some people continue to wear them. But it's Remembrance Day.
And when you buy your poppy, the proceeds go to like veterans charities.
Exactly.
So it's a good cause as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of good causes, let's slide over to the Epiphan kitchen.
In the kitchen. I already finished my Invisi beer, so I'm going to have to go to water.
So some happenings here at Epiphan in the near future. As usual, we're always putting together some really highly informative webinars for everyone in the audience here. So if you do have a chance on November 24th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, we have a great webinar topic, live streaming tips for broadcast quality productions. So do you want your stream to look as good as ours does today? Maybe you can jump into this webinar and pick up some quick tips and some advice from our experts, who include, none other than George Herbert, who's here today, but also Marta Chernova, who has a ton of experience with cameras, lighting, audio. She's really an expert on all of the accoutrement you need in your studio to produce a high-quality live stream. So if you want to achieve broadcast quality content, learn the tricks of the trade, and discover gear that you can count on, check out that webinar on the 24th, epiphan.com/webinars.
Yeah. Another thing we have going on that, Dan, you and your team have put up is a case study from a company called Verdict Advantage. I was struggling to say Verdict Advantage together. But they're a company that does mock courtrooms for training people in that scenario. They use Epiphan equipment as part of their recording and streaming infrastructure. And this case study is fantastic. It's a great setup, not only for someone who needs to train people, but this is directly something you can do in an actual courtroom setting or anything that is similar, right? So this might be a user study for any corporation that does product study and stuff like that. This is a great write-up. Highly recommend you check it out if you do any of that kind of stuff. So, you can check it out on our case studies page, epiphan.com/case study. You can find it obviously through the main, but there's diagrams of what they've done, the full write-up on it. This is honestly a great use case that I any of you integrators out there, I'd highly recommend you read through this one, because this is applicable in so many ways.
It's super cool because it kind of uses a lot of the features that Pearl has. Lots of sources, moving content into different rooms, having display monitors, projectors, audio,
streaming, recording, everything.
It's just cool too. Like, I think I want to have my own mock courtroom so that I can run my own mock court cases. It might be fun to, It's
where we're going to grind our gears next in our own mock courtroom.
Yeah, why not? It would be fun to pretend to be the judge too. So if anyone ever wants to set up a mock courtroom and have some fun, you could talk to me and maybe we could work on that together, or maybe just give Verdict Advantage a call.
Yeah.
What else is going on, George?
Well, blogs. We're always putting up blogs. Blogs. There's lots of cool blog articles. We've put up some stuff recently about building studios. We've updated some things around camera recommendations. There's a blog that went up, I guess it was just yesterday, talking about the comparison between H.264 and H.265 video codecs, comparing those pros and cons, that sort of thing, which I think is pretty important. I think that's going to be a hotter issue coming into 2022. So, you can kind of get started there and check that out. and video capture blog earlier this month. Our writers.
The blog is hopping right now. We've got a lot of great content coming. So definitely check out the Epiphan blog. I used an article recently that I think our writer Michael put together, which was all about webcams.
Yeah.
Because we had to get a new webcam for my wife, and there's a lot of great advice on this article about how to pick your webcam, and just a rundown of some of the most popular ones. So just all kinds of useful information on the blog. So if you haven't checked out the Epiphan blog lately, maybe head over to epiphan.com and take a peek.
And lastly, if you prefer consuming your things in video format instead of reading, like so many people do, you like to just sit wherever you are in your house, I won't ask questions, and watch a YouTube video. We published a YouTube video talking about converting HDMI to USB for live streaming, so video capture. And our colleague Marta did an amazing job getting this video together. Super detailed, but basic explainer on how you get things done. And so that's a great video. If people are wondering, people in your life or yourself questioning, how can I increase quality so that I don't end up on a grind my gears session with Dan and George railing against how bad it looks to use your phone. Check this out and learn how to get a better quality camera into your computer, because that's what we're doing right now. Literally that graphic that's in that part of the video where it shows a mirrorless camera into the capture card, that's what I do. And
what camera are you using, George?
I use a Sony A5100, but you use an M200, I believe, right?
Yes,
not that.
I just Googled M200 and the wrong thing came up, but here it is. Here it is. This is the Canon EOS M200 mirrorless camera. For the price, it's really awesome. The reason I like using it as a webcam is because the autofocus on it is really good, and the intelligent auto ISO on it is really good.
So one of the advantages it has over the Sony, they're very comparable, same price kind of thing, but the Canon does have a slight edge in some of the autofocus and lighting stuff. But
this really is set it and forget it. Like, I don't even turn this thing off. It just kind of is like a webcam. So it's always on, and it just works. So highly recommend.
So those are fantastic. I did, but that's pretty much all of our news and kitchen stuff. But I really did want to address one comment saw here from Emerald Audiovisual again, just saying, I've managed to do 360 streaming with an Insta360 1R using SRT and OBS to YouTube. So it can be done at the lower end, but it takes effort and trickery. I would love to hear more about that, because it's something that we've thought about experimenting with in the past, and we have experimented with in the past years ago, but I'm always looking at new ways to leverage that at the lower end even, because it has its applications. I think it's really interesting. So I would love to hear more about that and what you did and how you used it and what the results were. So if you want to actually send us an email just to info@epiphan.com, we'd love to get in touch and understand a little bit of that project and, what the effort and trickery was and how you found it. And more importantly, what was the viewer's reaction? Do people actually care about 360? I wonder. It's got some cool stuff, but does it matter? I don't know.
It will in the metaverse, George. It will.
It will in the meta. Yeah, in the metaverse. For sure.
Just shout out to Cameron, our producer, who's throwing this show together on live at Epiphan show, as well as our webinars. Cameron, do you have a shot of yourself right now? Can we see you?
No.
Can we zoom in on the studio, empty studio? There it is. The ghost of Cameron is operating this studio.
Yeah, you can see him in the upper right corner of that second monitor trying to
no trip cables on the floor. That's because
very clean.
Because of
Cameron.
Very clean. So thank you very much.
Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us. Really appreciate your time today. I hope you enjoyed this show. As always, comment, like, or dislike. I'm okay with it. Let us know what you think. You can always drop us a comment, send us an email to info@epiphan.com with any show ideas, comments, feedback you have. Love to hear from you. We do this show every other week, so it'll be 2 weeks before we do our next show. I honestly don't know what we have queued up for that one right now. But if you want to look at back issues of this show, 2 weeks ago was an incredible show. So you definitely want to go back and watch that one. I don't want to spoil it, but you definitely want to go back and watch that one if you missed it. And as always, like, follow, subscribe in all the social places, Epiphan Video everywhere. And we use Facebook, YouTube, Instagram sometimes, and of course LinkedIn and all those other professional things.
Yes.
You can find us. So thanks everyone. Thanks Dan. It's great seeing you.
Hey,
Till
thanks,
next
George.
time. Bye bye.
So long.